What if I told you that attraction isn't about looks, money, or charm, but about 3 hidden levers inside a woman's subconscious that she cannot resist? Think about that for a second. Because while most men are busy chasing approval, showering her with compliments, and waiting for love as a reward for goodness, history's most ruthless strategist, Machiavelli, already revealed the darker truth. Desire doesn't obey kindness. It obeys power. Now picture this. 2 men enter her life. One gives her everything, attention, patience, loyalty. The other, he says less, reveals less, and yet she can't stop thinking about him. Which one does she desire? You already know the answer. And here's the uncomfortable part. If you don't understand these 3 switches, you'll end up like the first man, forgettable, invisible, discarded. Because seduction isn't about sweet talk, it's about statecraft. The battlefield isn't her body, it's her mind. And if you master these 3 switches, you don't chase women. Women chase you, holding back just enough that her brain keeps searching for more, where silence becomes louder than words. Breaking the cycle of nice guys by standing in power, not in need. So if you're tired of being the one left on read, if you've ever wondered why effort without strategy always fail, then stay. Because in the next few minutes I'm going to expose the Machiavellian code of desire, the 3 pleasure switches women cannot resist. Miss this, and you'll keep repeating the same cycle. Watch till the end, and you'll never see attraction the same way again. Before we move forward in this video, quickly drop a comment telling us which country you're watching from. It helps us see how far this channel's voice is reaching across the world. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Your support is the power that keeps this channel alive and growing. They told you power lies in politics, in titles, in wealth, but they never told you the most strategic battlefield is the space between a man and a woman. Just as kings rise and fall by unseen forces, so too does a man's value in the eyes of a woman, not through charm, not through kindness, but through command of 3 invisible switches, buried not in her body but in her subconscious. And here's the Machiavellian truth. Desire obeys power, not the power of brute force, but the power of presence, the power of mystery, the power of controlled chaos. Machiavelli, the master of political seduction, wrote, "Men in general judge more from appearances than from reality. All men have eyes, but few have the gift of penetration." He wasn't just talking about thrones, he was talking about you. Because when it comes to attraction, most men act like failed princes, begging for love, offering peace, hoping virtue will be enough. But they forget what Machiavelli taught. Virtue without strategy invites. Defeat women are not moved by what is obvious. Not by endless compliments, not by visible effort. They are moved unconsciously by tension, by uncertainty, by the magnetic force of what they can feel but never fully explain. In love, as in war, the victor is not the one who gives the most. It's the one who understands the terrain and moves like a shadow through it. And if you think love and war are opposites, you're already losing, because both are games of power, perception, and control. Seduction is not sweet talk. Seduction is statecraft. So today you will learn what most men never will. The 3 pleasure switches women cannot resist. Not because they're logical, but because they're Machiavellian. These are not tricks, these are psychological codes, timeless levers of influence that bypass words and tap directly into instinct. And once you hold these switches, you don't chase desire. Desire chases you. This is not about being loved. It's about being unforgettable. And just like any true prince, you don't announce your power. You reveal it, slowly, strategically, and only to those who dare to look deeper. Are you ready to learn the dark architecture of attraction? Then let's begin. Most men enter the arena of attraction armed with all the wrong weapons. They believe if they're nice enough, patient enough, generous enough, they will win her heart. They've been taught that love is a reward for goodness, that if they show her respect, attention, loyalty, she will feel what they feel. But they forget what Machiavelli warned us centuries ago. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Now apply that to desire. Because in the game of seduction, as in politics, kindness without edge is weakness disguised as virtue. And weakness, whether in a ruler or a man, is punished, not pitied. How many times have you heard this story? He listened. He was always available. He texted her good morning, remembered the small things, gave her space, gave her attention, gave her everything. And what did he get? Ghosted, friend-zoned, ignored. Why? Because giving more does not create desire. Effort without strategy becomes invisible. You see, when a man offers comfort with no tension, predictability with no edge, virtue with no mystery, he becomes emotionally flat, like a king who gives his people everything but commands no respect. He becomes lovable, but not desirable. Women don't crave only comfort. They crave polarity, a dance between certainty and chaos, between warmth and restraint. They are not drawn to the man who gives endlessly. They are drawn to the man who gives deliberately, who moves with control, like a ruler playing 5 steps ahead. Machiavelli understood this principle well. The vulgar crowd always is taken by appearances, and the world consists chiefly of the vulgar. In other words, what people feel matters more than what is, and what she feels, deeply, irrationally, instinctively, is what you create in the space between who you show and what you conceal. The nice guy fails not because he is kind, but because his kindness is transparent, expected without depth or timing. It becomes noise. But the man who pairs virtue with power, who gives with purpose, who makes her feel seen but never certain, that man becomes a fixation. Because love may be built on connection, but desire is built on tension. The illusion of virtue is thinking that goodness alone will make you unforgettable. The Machiavellian truth: power cloaked in kindness is irresistible, but kindness without power, that is just submission in disguise. So ask yourself not, how do I be nicer, but how do I become the kind of man she wants to chase, not comfort? And in that question so lies the beginning of your transformation. Machiavelli once wrote, "A wise ruler must learn to penetrate the hearts of men, for their words often conceal more than they reveal." The same is true for women. But here's where most men fail. They try to understand women logically, as if feelings are equations to solve. They hear her words, they nod, they empathize, and they think that's enough. But understanding is not seduction. Because women, unlike men, feel before they think. They are oceans of emotion wrapped in mystery, tidal waves of meaning that crash and collide, often without clear names. She can laugh while feeling sadness. She can rage while hiding fear. She can say, "I'm fine," while drowning inside. So what does the average man do? He listens. He waits. He tries to be supportive. But the Machiavellian man does something different. He translates. He listens, not to her words, but to the music beneath them. He sees what she doesn't say. He speaks to the part of her she's too afraid to reveal. And in that moment, she feels seen, not for her beauty, not for her smile, but for the swirling storm inside her, one she's hidden even from herself. Imagine this. She's venting about her day, tension in her voice, sharp words. The average man says, "I understand. That must be frustrating." But the strategic man looks deeper. He reads the tone, the pauses, the body language, and instead of responding with surface sympathy, he reflects her truth back like a mirror. You're not just frustrated. You feel invisible, like you gave everything today and no one noticed. Silence. Her breath catches. Her eyes change. Because for once, someone didn't just hear her complaint, they decoded her soul. This is emotional alchemy. And it is the first pleasure switch, because when a woman feels emotionally translated, she doesn't just feel connected. She feels exposed, vulnerable, deeply bound. This kind of connection doesn't fade. It imprints. She may forget your face, your name, even your body but she will never forget the man who touched the part of her she couldn't name. That is power. Because desire is not born in comfort, it's born in exposure, in that rare feeling of being seen without performing. To her, most men are background noise, but the man who translates her chaos becomes a signal she can't turn off. He becomes a question she returns to over and over because no one else ever made her feel so deeply understood. So understand this. You don't win her heart by echoing her words. You win her soul by revealing the emotions beneath them gently, accurately, fearlessly. Be the man who doesn't just listen. Be the man who decodes. Because once you translate her chaos, she'll no longer just want you, she'll need you. Niccolo Machiavelli once said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." And that is your second weapon. In both politics and seduction, the fatal mistake is the same: revealing too much. Weak rulers believe transparency wins loyalty. Weak men believe vulnerability guarantees love. But the truth Machiavelli knew, and most will never accept, is this: what is fully known becomes ordinary, and what is partly hidden becomes unforgettable. This is the second switch, the one that awakens her obsession. Mystery, the man who reveals his every thought, every feeling, every insecurity, every history, becomes like a book she's already read. Closed, complete, predictable. But the man who offers just enough, who speaks with precision but never explanation, who smiles but doesn't decode it, who opens the door but leaves the room dimly lit, that man stays in her mind long after he's gone. Think of the films that haunt you. It's not the ones that explained every plot point. It's the ones that ended in a whisper, not a scream. The ones that left you asking, what did that mean? The ones you rewatched just to search for the clues you missed. Now ask yourself this: are you the open book she reads once and shelves forever? Or are you the mystery novel she rereads 10 times, still unsure if she truly understood it? Here's what most men never grasp: certainty kills imagination, and imagination is the birthplace of desire. When she doesn't fully understand you, her mind starts to work. She analyzes your silence. She replays your words. She questions what you left unsaid. And in that spinning, spiraling thought loop, she becomes emotionally invested. This isn't manipulation. This is magnetism. Because the more she guesses, the more she needs to know. And the more she needs to know, the more power you hold. So how do you live this? You hold back. Not coldly, not cruelly, but intentionally. You leave space in your stories. You answer with questions. You let silence hang like a well-timed ellipsis, inviting her to lean in, not pull away. Remember, the mask is not a lie. It's a filter. A powerful man shows himself not to everyone, but to the few who earn it. So become the man who cannot be solved on the first try. Become the enigma that keeps her spinning. The presence she almost understands, but never completely. Because when she can't stop thinking about you, when she finds herself wondering what you really meant, when her imagination begins to fill in the blanks you carefully left open, you become more than a man. You become a symbol, a puzzle, a story she tells herself. And in the world of desire, nothing is more addictive than the story she hasn't finished yet. That is the power of strategic concealment. That is the power of mystery, and that is why the man who keeps 70% hidden is the man she can never forget. Machiavelli once warned, men should be treated generously or destroyed because they take revenge for slight injuries. For heavy ones they cannot. But here's the more subtle truth he wove throughout his teachings. Never fully satisfy those you wish to influence, because when the people are content, they forget the prince. But when they feel they almost have what they want, yet not quite, their minds remain loyal, obsessed, tethered. Now replace people with her. This is the third pleasure switch, the most delicate, the most powerful, unfinished desire. Most men crave completeness. They want to be understood, to be fully known, to have no gaps left unexplored. So they open everything, explain everything, reveal everything, but Machiavelli would tell you that is not seduction, that is surrender. A woman's mind is built for incompletion, wired to close loops, resolve tension, decode emotion. And when you give her almost enough, when you show her 80% but hold the final 20% in shadow, she enters a loop she cannot escape. She thinks of you in the quiet moments. She rewinds conversations. She imagines how you feel, why you didn't text, what you meant by that look. You become a living question mark. And unlike answers, questions linger. Think back to the people who stayed in your memory the longest. Were they the ones who made everything clear? Or were they the ones who left something unsaid? A kiss that almost happened, a message never sent, a goodbye without closure. It's not perfection that leaves the deepest imprint. It's incompletion. The man who is almost figured out, the one who seems close but just out of reach, the one who opens the door but leaves you standing in the hallway. That's the man she cannot shake. This isn't about confusion. It's not about playing games, it's about strategic emotional leadership. You guide her into a space where her emotions do the work for you, where her brain burns energy trying to solve you, where every interaction becomes a thread she wants to pull again and again. And here's the irony. The more she tries to decode you, the more she feels. The more she feels, the more she attaches. And the more she attaches, the less control she has. All because you refuse to give her the final piece. You became the book without an ending, the film with the haunting final frame, the almost, that becomes everything. So remember this, most men try to win by giving more, but the Machiavellian man wins by leaving just enough behind that her own mind becomes your most loyal messenger. She thinks it's love, she thinks it's fate, but it's simply unfinished desire. And that, my friend, is power. Now that you've seen the 3 pleasure switches, you begin to understand that this was never about seduction. It was about sovereignty, because these aren't tricks. They are laws, rooted in psychology, sharpened by strategy, and refined through centuries of human behavior. What Machiavelli taught kings applies just as powerfully to men in the theater of desire. Switch 1. Translate her chaos. Where others hear noise, you decode the signal. You don't mirror her emotions, you give language to what she cannot name. You become the rare man who sees the storm inside and speaks to it directly. Switch 2. Master mystery. Like a ruler who never reveals his full strategy, you hold back just enough. You leave her curious, invested, mentally circling your presence long after the conversation ends. Switch 3. Leave her unfinished. Never complete the picture. Never let her mind rest in certainty. Desire lives in the gap between what she feels and what she understands. And when you live in that gap, she doesn't choose you logically. She obsesses emotionally. These are not manipulations. They are reflections of deep influence. Because what is politics if not the shaping of hearts through calculated perception? And what is seduction if not the shaping of desire through emotional gravity? This is the dark code Machiavelli hinted at but never named. Most men seek affection. Few understand control. Most chase clarity, but those who embrace tension are remembered. And now you stand at that edge, not just as a man, but as a prince in your own right. One who no longer begs for attraction, but commands it. Because you are not seducing, you are ruling. You've now seen the blueprint. Not of pickup lines, not of surface tricks, but of something far rarer, the architecture of influence. While most men chase love like beggars, you've stepped into the mindset of rulers, of thinkers, of strategists, of those who do not ask for attention but pull it like gravity. These 3 pleasure switches, they are not secrets, they are weapons, hidden in plain sight, but seen only by those willing to think deeper. You've learned to translate emotion, not just react to it, to master mystery, not overexpose your essence, to live in incompletion where desire grows wild and uncontainable. Now comes the question only you can answer. Will you use this? Will you walk into every conversation with presence? Will you command the space, not with noise, but with silence? Will you stop chasing approval and start becoming the man she cannot explain? Because the truth is this, you've crossed a threshold, and there is no going back. You are no longer just a man. You are a strategic romantic, a student of power, a practitioner of influence, a ruler in the world of attraction. And this is only the beginning. Subscribe now, because the next chapter is deeper, darker, and more powerful than anything you've heard so far. Welcome to the Brotherhood of the Unsolved. Right now, there are 2 videos on your screen, handpicked just for you. Click to watch them. I'm sure you'll love every second.